Hi guys, happy Saturday. So we are exactly 1 week before the first eclipse of this autumn or spring, depending where you are in the world. So exactly in 1 week time, we'll have the first solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. So I thought this might be a good day to share my personal experience, my practical application of astrology. Also, Moon is still in a sign of Cancer until later on tonight. She will move into the sign of Leo tonight. So yeah, so then the energy will shift again. So Cancer energy is more about the nurturing and self-care, and I have Moon in Cancer, so I know I know what that feels like, and yeah, it definitely can get very emotional. So anyway, so I decided let's just go over this week, what just took place, what just happened, and what is preparing us for this big eclipse that is just right around the corner. And there are all these aspects happening in the sky, and I will be preparing and very likely posting my astrological forecast for next week tomorrow, so stay tuned for that one. If that's what you here to listen to, the astrological energies for next week predominantly about the new moon in Libra that's coming up next Saturday, then stay tuned. That video is coming out tomorrow. This is not that video, this is my personal share of astrology and practical application of astrology, how this is showing up for me. So anyway, let's dive in. So if you are watching my videos, you know that I'm currently in the UK, walking down the memory lane, revisiting my second home away from home. UK used to be my home for 19 years until December last year, when I relocated and I moved to Mexico for 6 months, and then I came back to Europe, and now I'm going back to Mexico. And it's just, I don't have a permanent home. I'm a digital nomad at the moment, so just leave it out of the suitcase and just crashing off on people's couches and spare bedrooms and Airbnbs and all that kind of funny stuff. So anyway, so currently I'm staying with my friend and her family, and yeah, it's been interesting. I was just talking to my friend, and I'm literally like, well, I don't know what is more challenging, whether the 4 weeks that I was staying with my parents, or, you know, the situation I find myself at now. And yeah, isn't that just interesting how we are in Virgo season? Seriously, I'm just like not with it today. As we are in Libra season, it's all about relationships. It's just crazy how all these relationship dynamics are coming to the surface for us to look at. And it's perfect, because it's exactly what's meant to be happening with all these astrological energies, because it's always as above, so below, and we are in Libra season. So of course it's going to be all about relationships. And this week, as we know, Mercury also moved into the sign of Libra, so Mars is still in the sign of Libra just about, and he will be moving into the sign of Scorpio next week, which is something I'm going to be talking about in my astrological forecast tomorrow. But yeah, now Mercury is in Libra as well, and Mercury is of course our cognitive function, our communication, our identification of reality, our everything that we perceive in. So it's all about relationships. Right now it's all about relationships. Sun is in relationship because we are in Libra season, as I mentioned. We are approaching this eclipse in Libra, the first one of the lot, and yeah, it's just been intense. I mean, obviously I don't know how is it for other people, I only know what I know from my experience, but it's been intense. It's interesting that I mentioned Virgo, because literally during majority of the Virgo season I was with my parents in Slovakia, and yeah, there was completely different dynamics, even though it was also walking down the memory lane and revisiting the old patterns and seeing what's outdated and seeing what needs adjustments, and also readjusting my own schedule and my own approach to my everyday reality, and things that needs to be done and things that potentially don't have to be done and could be adjusted, could be changed, and all that. And now being in England, like I said, I'm staying with my friends, so there are always people around. So it's even like, it's very different dynamic from staying with my parents, because it's different kind of expectations and it's also different kind of responses to these situations. And like I said, you know, if we don't get on with our family, and if we can't get on with our parents, then how are we going to get on with like strangers, or, you know, extraterrestrials, when they're gonna, you know, when they're gonna be a contact and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's been interesting observation. And as I mentioned, this week there's been some changes. Mercury changed sign, Venus is just about to change sign. She will be moving into the sign of Virgo tomorrow night, so she'll be leaving Leo, where she's been for like 3-4 months, right? She's been there forever. She had her retrograde in Leo, and now she'll be moving into practical sign of Virgo, and everything that she had learned now she will be putting into practical application, because Venus will be retouching everything that Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, had activated, then Sun illuminated it, then now recently, until recently, Mercury gone over all of that, Mercury as the ruler of Virgo, and now Venus going to be over the same territory, and it will be the time to make some changes, to put practical application and make changes and adjustment when it comes to our relationships, right? Because Venus is the ruler of the South Node, and South Node is in Libra, and South Node is the resolution node to Pluto squaring the nodes this entire year. Of course, it started with South Node being in Scorpio, so we had the opportunity to experience what was making us feel disempowered, potentially stuck, brought a sense of fear, and now it's all pointing towards relationship. Like, what is unresolved in your relationships that is making you feel potentially not how you want to feel? And yeah, and I can definitely confirm this has been the case for me. So yeah, so the main thing that actually took place this week astrologically was, of course, the Sun and South Node conjunction, which at the same time, of course, we have Mars opposition to North Node, which he's the ruler of, because North Node is in Aries. And this started a brand new cycle, but it's the cycle of how are we resolving this past, because of course Mars eventually will conjunct the North Node next year. And yeah, that will be a completely different new cycle, because between Mars and the North Node in Aries, that will be a very different cycle. But by that point, Pluto will not be squaring the nodes anymore. But Pluto is squaring the nodes now, and it's pointing to the South Node, and the South Node is in Libra. The South Node that Mars just conjuncted, that started a new cycle with. So what does this mean in a practical application? It means that we are revisiting all these toxic, dysfunctional, outdated relationship patterns, because Venus is squaring Uranus, right? She has been squaring Uranus for a while now, and she actually squared Uranus exactly 3 times. And the last time was actually, I believe, during the last lunations, right? It was yeah, it was on the day of this full moon in Aries, when Venus squared Uranus for the 3rd time. And the first time since she is direct, Uranus is still retrograde, and it will remain retrograde until end of January 2024. Uranus will be the last planet station in direct. So Venus is still within the degree squaring Uranus, and Uranus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is the ruler of South Node. So anyway, obviously this video is not meant to be astrological, not so much, but I'm just trying to explain the baseline of why there could be so much stress in our life connected to other people. And I mean, again, I don't know about what other people are experiencing. I can just say what I'm experiencing. And it is very intense. It is very intense. Even though, like, these people that potentially are causing you the most stress might be people you really love, you know, they could be your partner, they could be your kids, they could be your parents, they could be your friends, whatever, whoever it is. But now, where we are now, right now, like as a collective, but in our individual experience as well, in the microcosm, we are experiencing in a real time, by everyday interaction with other people, because Libra is all about relating to someone else, to another. So we learn about ourselves. So it's being like mirrored back to us, right? All these people, they just play their role to teach us something about ourselves, to bring something from the surface, something that we might not see or want to see being on our own. But then when we interacting with all these other people, it's just coming out because it gets triggered most of the time. So anyway, this is all serving us to acknowledge what is not working anymore, right? Like, okay, just because we've been doing these things for so long and behaving in the same way for so long and responding in the same way for so long, it doesn't mean that it's okay. It doesn't mean that this is what is going to be supporting us going forward, and it's not. Because Pluto is moving into Aquarius in January. It will have one more retrograde in Capricorn. I have to keep reminding everybody that, because I know a lot of people think that that's it. You know, Pluto moves into Aquarius and that's it. No, there is one more retrograde into Capricorn next year. I believe it's going to be in September when it moves, but don't quote me on that. I know it's going to move back into Aquarius. The last Capricorn Aquarius shift is going to happen in November next year. But all that said, there will be still something that we will need to complete next year that is connected to this Pluto Capricorn transit since 2008. But all in all, there are big shifts happening right here, right now, in a real time, because Mars has just conjuncted South Node, sorry, and started a new cycle. And a new cycle is Aries energy, which is like, there is this insecurity, there is this like, okay, I am acknowledging, I'm recognizing that this way of behaving or responding or relating is not working anymore. But what are we replacing that with? Like, what are we doing with this, when the natural response would be like, oh, but these people are not changing, right? Like, these people are not changing, so I need to respond this way or whatever, like, because they're just not getting it or whatever. But yeah, the only person obviously that you can change is yourself. We cannot change anybody else or their responses or their needs, wants and values and belief system or anything. Like, the only person that we can change is ourselves, and everything that to do with ourselves and our response to these situations. But because there are all these old woundings and traumas coming up to the surface, left, right, center, within us, but within the other person as well, all these people that we are interacting with, there is an opportunity to respond in a different way. But what is that? When we are creating this new relationship paradigm and trying to learn about this conscious way of relating to one another, which is like this completely unique new thing, and what does this look like in practice? Like, obviously we don't want this extreme, which is what Libra is working on, because Libra is wanting to be balanced. Libra is not born balanced, and I'm sure that people who know Libra people with strong Libra, they are usually not balanced at all. They're usually really like, you know, I mean, again, I don't know, because I'm not Libra, so I can't, and I have nothing in Libra. As you can tell, that's why I'm not exactly the most refined person when it comes to social interaction. But Libra people usually are, in my experience, quite stressy because they want to please everyone else. So they get themselves in a situation when they just go like, oh, I just give up because nobody can see me, nobody takes care of what I want, you know. So it gets to the extreme where the people pleasing and the codependency or self-adjustment or self-sacrifice gets to the point when there is the opposite extreme, where it's like, I don't want to be with anyone. I just want to be on my own, like the Aries, because nobody gets me or something. So anyway, so what are we trying to achieve here is the balance. Okay, how can we, you know, like, because it's like this, like, how can I be me? How can I be authentic? And how can I be integrated in a society that might not necessarily like my authenticity or who I am? Like, where do we find this middle ground where everybody can just get on and everybody can be happy, despite the fact that everybody's got different needs, values, belief systems, wounds, traumas, and all these kind of things. So obviously, for that to be able to take place, people need to resolve that within themselves, so then they don't project it all over everybody else, and then, you know, finger point and go like, oh, it's your fault and I can't respond to you in a different way because you all screwed up and you didn't heal your own wounding or something. So again, what does this look like? Yeah, like, look, what does this look like in a real life application, right? Because like I said, you know, me, like, currently being in the UK and walking down the memory lane and interacting with people from the past, where I'm putting the same hat on and, you know, like, stepping into the old versions of myself, which I'm not necessarily, it's not necessarily who I am anymore, but these aspects are still part of me. They still live in me, and they still pop their head, especially if they not like being healed and stuff. And now, like, okay, how can I respond in a different way? How can I hold a space for this person, but also at the same time be able to create a boundary? Because now, again, like I said, we don't want to go into the other extreme and be all like enabling. And it's like, well, this is not okay. You know, there is this, because with Libra, there is a square to Capricorn, right? Because these are all cardinal signs. Of course, being in Libra season is all about new beginnings, because this is a cardinal sign. It's like a beginning of change. So it's like, what does this change look like? And we know that Libra is a procrastinator. It can be a procrastinator because it's this undecisiveness that, okay, what is the balance? What is justice? What does fairness look like for everyone? So that could be this like overthinking everything, because it's like, okay, this is what I think. This is what, you know, somebody else thinks. So what is the right thing now? And the only answer to that is that you need to know yourself. You need to know what is right thing for you. and even though the other person might not like it, but it's our responsibility to put the boundaries. So for example, like, you know, if we are in the environment, and again, I can just talk about myself, so, you know, like finding myself in the environments I've been finding myself in the past 2 months, whether that was with my friends and whether that was with my family, and you know, now with my friends, it's like all these households I'm staying in, they have their own dynamic, they are their own ecosystems, right? They have their own like pools, yeah, like if you go to someone's house and there is a family unit living there, there is a certain pools in that house, there's a certain dynamic, and then now I'm coming as an intruder with all my needs, values, opinions, you know, wounding, history, DNA, whatever it is, you know, the whole package of this avatar. I'm coming into this this unit, you know, this family unit, whether that's my own family or my friend's family, whichever family it is, whichever household. And now I might not necessarily resonate with what's going on there and these people's needs, values, and belief system, or whatever it is, you know, like whatever it is that is normal for this unit. Like I said, when I was with my parents, you know, there is a lot of enabling going on there, let's just say, and lack of boundaries, very, very significant lack of boundaries. And for me, from my point of view, it required a continuous re-establishment of these boundaries with regards to my person. So it was like, okay, I understand that this is your environment, this is your unit, and this is your values and all this, but this is mine. And now how can we co-live together where you don't intrude on my boundaries and I don't intrude on yours? And it's this continuous conscious awareness where we don't go into this finger pointing and like, you know, fights and stuff like that, because somebody else cannot be who we want them to be, like who I want them to be. Like my parents, for example, they cannot be who I want them to be, because they are their own people, and this is the role that they chose to play in this incarnation for me to know what am I moving away from, let's just say. So these people that play all these important roles in our lives, especially the people that are closest to us, that can trigger us the most, this is the role that was designated to them to obviously support that role that they need to play in our, you know, little theater, like where you are you are the main star, but also I play certain role for them, you know, where they are the main star and I'm just like this side person or whatever. It's like the way it's designed is just so it's just so beautiful, like when we look at it from the higher perspective and how everything is perfect. All these people that are in our life and the roles that they play, it's perfect because it's happening exactly as it's needed to happen in order to create this outcome which is necessary for us to learn whatever we came here to learn. So for example, with regards to my parents and my family, and when I'm staying with them, I am the black sheep of my family and I'm the pattern changer. So my soul decided, okay, I'll be the one that will be completely different from everyone else in my family, but like completely, you know, like completely everything different value system, different needs, even different way that I eat, you know, like my routine is completely, like everything that I am and everything that I do and that makes me who I am is completely alien from the people that I came from, you know, from my family. So there is this soul, call me, in this incarnation, and decides, okay, I'm going to be very different from everybody else in my family, which obviously going to cause a lot of issues, because like I am never going to be seen and acknowledged and valued for who I am, and there's going to be this continuous pressure for me to not be who I am and to be what somebody else wants me to be. And then if I am not that person, then there's gonna be this sense of not belonging, of something wrong with me, this guilt and shame, you know, which is obviously this thing that we also inherited from our you know, previous generation, from our ancestors, because of the Pisces age conditioning and stuff like that. And then it's not up to me to now go and convince my parents or my siblings or whoever in my family to go like, hey, you wrong, something wrong with you, you should be more like me. But also it's not, you know, like in a sense, I have to stay strong in my boundary to now not go and like become what they want me to become, because I need to be true to myself. But again, where is the balance, right? Now we are in these times of collective transformation, and especially this month because it's Libra season, so the sun is shining into Libra, it's all about relationships. When and especially since a few days ago on the 4th, October 4th, when Mars had the conjunction with the South Node and started the new cycle with the South Node as the resolution node to Pluto squaring the nodes. So this is the thing that Pluto is pointing towards. Pluto as the planet of evolution, of soul's desire for evolution, in this case collective evolution, human collective, where we are evolving into, where we are heading, this process of collective metamorphosis. Pluto is pointing to the South Node, literally with the finger, saying that this is what is stopping you from getting there, because the North Node is in Aries, and it's saying there is this whole new cycle, right? North Node, as we know, is going to conjunct Chiron next February, so there is also a closing phase there, because Chiron has been in Aries since 2018-19, and it's been saying it's time for a new cycle to begin. Okay, like we need to heal this wounding that is making us feel insecure and unable to just to show up and be yourself. So anyway, so Pluto pointing to South Node in Libra, literally going like, here is the problem. Here is the problem, okay? The problem is the way you've been relating until this point, because it's dysfunctional, it's outdated, and it's just, you know, it's just not balanced. It's just not balanced, because there is always somebody loses. Or the way that we are being brought up in this society is this, obviously there are a lot of things that, you know, like cancel culture and whatever, but the main thing is that there is always somebody that's gonna lose, right? Even, I mean, the way I was brought up, and when my parents said like, oh well, you know, there is not enough money in the world, so obviously if there are all these rich people, then somebody has to be poor, you know, because there is just limited resources, right? This is their belief system. Now, is the truth? You know, that is truth for them, but it doesn't mean it's the universal truth. But this is something that if people believe, then it's going to create this approach towards life that somebody always has to lose. You know, that there is no win-win, that somebody will have to win and somebody has to lose. Like when you play competition, which is obviously a very Martian thing, there always has to be a loser, right? And not loser, but somebody who is not winning, right? Somebody that hasn't won. And yeah, in this case, like this is pretty much what Pluto is pointing towards Libra, and saying that, well, we need to resolve this societal approach to each other and relationship, where somebody is class as wrong, somebody's class as, well, you have to lose, you have to sacrifice, you have to whatever, compromise yourself because somebody else needs to win. But is that how it has to be, right? Because in essence, you know, the natural zodiac, Libra actually trines Aquarius, and it doesn't mean that just because you are the way you are, something wrong with you. It just means that perhaps you are around wrong people. So it's like how my astrology teacher always tried to explain it to us, was like, well, if you put a polar bear in the middle of New York City, how much this polar bear is going to thrive, right? Not very much, obviously. Or in a, actually he said Sahara desert, and if you put Aboriginal, you know, Australian into the middle of New York City, how much these beings are going to thrive in this environment? Well, they're probably not gonna survive, they're not gonna make it. But if you're gonna put the polar bear in, you know, Antarctica or wherever the hell they live, right, then they're gonna be fine, you know, the South Pole or something, they're gonna be just fine, because there is the natural environment. So this is pretty much what it is about Aquarius age. It's not about all of us to you know, fit everywhere, you know, because it's about you just here to find the right ecosystem for yourself, which will allow you to thrive. But in order to find what it is, you need to acknowledge whether you are a polar bear, or if you are a penguin, or if you are, I don't know, whatever, you know. And then once you acknowledge who you are and what is authentic to you, then you find the right ecosystem for you and the right people to hang out with. But there is no right and wrong. It doesn't mean that, you know, I don't know, polar bear is wrong, or something wrong with polar bear when he finds himself in Sahara desert, that there is something wrong with polar bear. It just means like, well, this is not the right place for you. This is not the right environment, and this is not the right ecosystem, because you can't thrive here. And this is pretty much what's going on a collective societal level, where we all are conditioned to believe that, you know, we all should just fit everywhere and be everywhere. And that's what creates this desire for, like, this what creates this sense of not enoughness, not being good enough, and also this judgment, because our needs are not being met. And, you know, so if we don't know who we are, we don't know what we need, usually. And then we project our unmet need onto someone else, that someone else has their own need, and which they then project on us. That creates conflict, because, you know, like, why somebody else should be meeting my needs. I mean, unless obviously there is an open communication and we decide, I need this, you need that, I have a lot of this which I can give you, you have a lot of that, and then it's a good interdependent relationship, but not codependent, right, where I feel like I cannot survive without you, or you know, something like that. So anyway, so where I'm trying to get with this is that in a current climate, it's just there is a lot of this like, oh, who you are and what you need is wrong. Something wrong with you. You need to change yourself so you fit in this environment. So you are like everyone else. So you have the same needs. So you don't feel that, you know, you are an outcast or something. But is that true? You know, is that true? And who decide what we should be, what we should need? And then we externalize our power because we want to fit and belong in these environments potentially, which are not the right environments for us. And then that makes us feel like bad about ourselves, makes us feel like something wrong with me. And in order for me to belong, I have to give you all this power in order for you to accept me, which makes me feel resentful and depressed, and it makes you feel whatever you feel. And then it's just creating this sick society where nobody's actually happy, because people are trying to be who they are not, and they're trying to fit where maybe it's not the right environment for them. So anyway, so like, I don't even know if this makes any sense, but practically how this has been showing up for me is like, there's nothing wrong with my parents. There's nothing wrong with the lifestyle they have. The lifestyle is not at all appealing or compatible with my lifestyle, but there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with their belief system. I don't have the same belief system, but I can't say there is anything wrong with it because it's theirs. They own it. And, you know, because that, you know, because that's what authentic to them. Who am I to say that something wrong with you? Something wrong with you, and you should be changed and believe what I believe because I'm right and you wrong or something. Because nobody is right or wrong. And this is the whole Gemini thing. You know, it's this multiplicity, my teacher calls it, but it's also this multidimensionality of our experience, which I've been talking about so much recently, that we are not living in the same realities. We are not experiencing the same realities because it depends where you're coming from. It depends on your outlook on life. It depends on everything that makes you who you are. And that's how you perceive the realities. This Sagittarius, the lens through which you perceive reality. But Sagittarius is not acting in separation from everything else. Sagittarius makes a trine to Aries and Leo, right? So when you show up and you're being authentically yourself, eventually you find out what is this perception of reality through which you see the world, and it then squares, you know, Virgo, and it opposes Gemini, right? And what else it does? It squares Pisces, you know, so there is all this. So anyway, every zodiac sign, it doesn't do anything on its own. It interacts with all these other zodiac signs just the same way as we as human beings. We don't do everything in separation, because everything you do impacts someone else. Everything you say impacts someone else. So it's not like, oh yeah, you know, this, I don't know, this country is gonna, you know, do something, right? Like, I don't know, whatever it is, something bad, and it's not gonna impact anybody else. So, nothing to do with me, you know, there is a war on this other side of the, nothing to do with me, you know, it's not happening to me, right? But it's not true, because we are all connected and everything impacts everyone, right? It's like, if there is some huge natural disaster, or like even during the, you know, 2020, 2021, whatever, we could see how quickly that impacted the entire world. Nothing is in separation. Nothing exists in separation, because everything is connected. So again, what I'm trying to get back to what I was talking about is that in essence, nothing is right or wrong. It's just what is right for you. And in order for you to find the right environment for yourself, the right people, where your needs are being met, where you are being seen for who you are, it's your responsibility to figure out what that is, right? So again, me staying with my parents, getting triggered to hell every day, and having to reestablish my boundaries continuously, because there is that continuous friction, that continuous square going on, because it's like, this is who I am, you are something different, you know, like, I'm the Aries, you are the Cancer, you know, you are the home, the traditional, I'm the Aries. I'm like, yeah, I just want to show up, I just want to go after this adventure into these new shores and explore and discover who I am and stuff. And then there is this like, well, but we are your parents, we are the Capricorn, and this is your home and family and tradition, and la 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 la, and you know, and all that. And I'm like, well, this is not who I am, you know, this is your projection into who you think I am and stuff. But again, there is no right and wrong, and they have the right to feel whatever they feel and be whoever they are. And it's the same way with me now staying with my friend. Like, you know, like, there are a lot of values we share, and there are some things we don't share, you know, and there is no right and wrong. But in essence, it's my responsibility to make sure that I can provide for myself what I need. And this was exactly the same thing that was showing up for me when I was in Mexico. And I was staying with my friend, and there were all these like friction going on, you know. There was nothing like literally like happening on a surface, but there was all this energy, like all this tension and all this friction and all this like you know, this energy going on there. And that was because, again, I projected my unmet needs onto her and expected her to, like, you know, met my needs for, like, you know, I already talked about this in my videos in Mexico. My main need is for freedom. You know, I need my own time. I need my own space. Now, yes, of course, you know, let's not be now rigidly Taurus fixated on one thing, right? Which is like, of course, I need to interact with other people, and, you know, like there is a certain level of flexibility that needs to be also applied to my, you know, my rigidity. Like I said, like I was talking about, that when I was in Bulgaria, you know, like I lived on my own. I could do what I want when I want. I could, you know, not have to take anybody else into consideration. But then this is not how it operates in the world, you know, like this is not how it works, you know, because we are all like social creatures, and most of us are interacting with other people, and most of us are living around other people on pretty much daily basis. So we cannot just like live in a vacuum of our little bubble and not ever interact with anybody else. And then when we do interact with other people, then all these things are coming to the surface. You know, you have different values, different belief system, you know, you're projecting onto me what you think I should be, and all these kind of things, right? So again, going to the core of the things is that, well, it's not anybody's fault for them not meeting my expectations, because it's my responsibility to acknowledge that, okay, this is important to me, I should put a boundary around it. Okay, like I said, you know, there always has to be a certain level of flexibility, because otherwise we get too stuck in a rut and too rigid, and then we don't evolve. So, you know, universe will always present us with challenges which potentially might show us that this is outdated. You know, like, yeah, you might have liked that might have been like part of your everyday routine, but actually this is not serving you anymore. We have to take it away, right? Like there is this continuous change happening in our life, but at the same time there is still this continuous need for you to acknowledge who you are, what you need, what you want, what is important to you, and be able to put a boundary around it, even though this boundary is not like a stone that is like unmovable and it cannot change, because it continuously changes. Things are continuously changing. That is the, like, you know, the only constant in life is the change, right? But at the same time, it's important for us that at every moment in our life to know the basics, which is who you are, what matters to you, what makes you happy, what do you believe. And even though these things change all the time, that's fine. But right here, right now, you know, do you have what you need? And if you don't, why? And not trying to externalize all these needs and project them onto other people and say, well, you're not meeting my need, so something wrong with you, right? Like, you know, I could say, well, something wrong with my parents because they can't live the life the way I am, or, you know, or whatever, or my friend or whoever, doesn't matter. So this is practically what's happening now. This is my little microcosm where I'm literally being re-experiencing these dynamics, which I don't necessarily like and enjoy when it comes to like other people, and you know, how I feel around them, or what makes, you know, what triggers are coming up for me, or whatever it is that gets obviously shown to us through interaction with other people, which is something that we don't necessarily see when we are on our own, because this is hiding, this is not being triggered, this is not being obvious. But then when we are with other people, and we always attract the people that we are in resonance with, or people that we need to learn from, right? And or both, and then, you know, then we find out because the trigger comes up, and then we question, like, you know, or hopefully we question, hopefully we just don't sweep it under the carpet and ignore it and say, hey, this is your fault, I'm not even going to deal with this, because you know, because there is always a learning, there is always a message. And for me, the learning obviously is that, yes, I need to remain flexible and adaptable with regards to, like, you know, not to be just rigidly attached to, okay, I do this every day at this time, and I need my, you know, time for work and this and this. But then obviously there are boundaries, like what is acceptable. And yeah, I do have commitments, I do have responsibility. There is a client that is waiting for me, or there is a, you know, there is my commitment to my social media and videos that needs to be made. And this environment doesn't allow me you know, to do my work, right? Because of whatever, yeah. And then it's my responsibility to be able to fulfill my need. It's not my friend's responsibility or my dad's responsibility or whoever's. It's not their responsibility. It's my responsibility to be resourceful and find a different way where I can actually meet my needs, so then I don't project this unmet need onto someone else and try to make them feel that there's something wrong with them or their lifestyle or their family dynamic or needs, values, belief system, whatever it is, right? And I feel that this is pretty much what's happening collectively for us, where all these things are being triggered and a lot of things are being brought up to the surface that are making us question these things, because the old way of responding to these situation triggers, people's, is just not going to take us anywhere, because it's just accelerating. It's accelerating. This human interaction with one another are accelerating to the point where we have to change something. We don't necessarily know what it is and what is it meant to look like going forward, because there is a new phase between, you know, Mars and South Node, which is like new phase, Aries energy. It's like, okay, I know there has to be a change, but what is it? And then tomorrow night, Monday morning, just before Venus moves into Virgo, so obviously Mars is under rulership of Venus as well. Mars is going to square Pluto, right? So Venus is still squaring Uranus, Mars just conjuncted South Node, and Mars is going to square Pluto. And I mean, what does this feel like? Exactly what we're experiencing. This is the crisis in consciousness. This is the last quarter square, which is saying things are ending. Things are ending. Mars is going to conjunct Pluto, right, in Capricorn, when it gets to Capricorn. And this is going to be a new cycle between Mars and Pluto, the new cycle between Mars and North Node. So now we are culminating. With regards to South Node, there is already a new cycle starting, but South Node is the past. South Node is where we're coming from, which is this old toxic way of behaving, old toxic way of relating, this codependent way, which we gave our power away. And then because we gave our power away, then we feel resentful. We feel like we need to manipulate, or we feel like we need to judge or criticize or make the other person feel wrong or bad about themselves, so we feel better about ourselves, which doesn't work. Because do we really feel better if we make somebody else feel bad about themselves, when we know consciously or subconsciously that these people are just reflection of me, that there is something within me that is unhealed, which this person is triggering or mirroring back to me? And then eventually, when we all die and go to spirit world, we realize that we are all part of the same thing, and this person was just trying to, you know, do us a favor in a sense that makes no sense in a human mind, that this person actually did it for us because there was a contract or there was an agreement, soul contract, soul agreement, whatever it was, that they did what they did to help us see something which we were blind towards, which we couldn't see, which was a blind spot. Just like there are all these in conjunction going on in the sky, there are so many things we can't see, and there are all these closing and new phases, and we are like, you know, there are so many, it's like literally, it's like living in this crazy reality where there are so many things happening at the same time. And of course, like the whole thing is accelerating. We know that the entire evolution is like accelerating. We are on an accelerated path. Everything is happening very quickly. Things are changing very quickly, like so quickly that actually our human physical body cannot even adjust. You know, I mean, like, I don't know, again, about you guys, but I've been feeling so stressed, like so many nerves, so much like, you know, electricity and all these kind of things. And, you know, like, obviously, like my meditation time has been like non-existent, literally, which, you know, I know that it's always affecting me, but at least I've been able to go more in nature and stuff. So that's been very healing for me, being Taurus. I love my nature. But anyway, all these things is, again, it's helping us to acknowledge where are our limits, and where are our boundaries, or where there are not boundaries, where is the lack of boundaries. But again, it's our responsibility to do something about it. That other person is not going to do it for you, you know. This person, what they're doing, they just helping you to see that. That's why we're getting triggered to the hell with all these people doing whatever they're doing or being whatever they're being in our life, the role they're playing, because they are helping us to see something, they are helping us to acknowledge something, and then it's our responsibility to put it into practice. Venus is just about to move into Virgo, literally right after Mars will make an exact square to Pluto. And this is crisis in consciousness, which is saying that something needs to change because something is ending. So it's more like a psychological thing where there has to be a shift. It's like, you know, after you had a harvest, and then you know that there is whatever you couldn't pick up, you know, whatever fruit, whatever it is that is left behind, that now you have to let it rot. You have to give it back to earth. And then, you know, so the new cycle can begin. We cannot carry it all with us. There are things which, you know, or things that didn't bear fruit, which we just have to let it go. And this is what the Mars is saying, that there are things that are not working anymore, and we just have to let it go. We have to let go of this attachment to this old way of behaving, relating, and judging, and culture, and projections, and all these stuff, all this BS that's going on in the world, you know, collectively, but also individually in our little microcosm. Like I said, if we can't make a peace with the people that are closest to us, that are in our daily environment, how we gonna make a peace with people we don't even know, or beings that we don't even know, or you know, can see as, oh yeah, there is another human, or whatever, or people of different race or religion or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, you know, the things that make someone in our perception be different from who we are. So if you can't get on with people who are around us, you know, that we chose, then how are we gonna get on with the other people, right? And this is what this Mars and Pluto squaring, you know, Mars making a square to Pluto. This is what it's gonna be like. And then Mars is gonna move into Scorpio next week, right before the eclipse on the 12th. And this is like Mars in Scorpio is in its rulership by traditional astrology. It's really powerful, but Mars in Scorpio bites. I mean, it's got a tail, yeah, it's gonna stink, but it's also really like sharp. It's like want to penetrate and go to the core of the things, right? So Mars is going to square Pluto, yeah. Then Venus is going to move into Virgo, and then Mars is going to move into Scorpio, yeah. And obviously there are other things happening in between. Like I said, I'm going to talk about the astrology of this tomorrow, but this is intense. You know, this is intense. I don't know, like people just, oh yeah, there's going to be eclipses, yeah. But, you know, like this is intense, guys. This is not just like, oh yeah, there's going to be eclipses and like, whatever. You know, this is like, this is not just any eclipses. This is intense because this is Libra and Aries axis. And I mean, obviously the Aries lunation is not going to happen because we have the last eclipse in Taurus. So let's just close that door first. But yeah, this Libra thing, this Libra is huge. It's so prominent because, like I said, like I keep repeating myself like a parrot, the south node, the resolution node to Pluto squaring the nodes is in Libra. So and now we are in a Libra season, all this stuff that is not working for us, that potentially we might have been able to ignore over the summer, like, oh yeah, who cares? And now we back to school, back to work, back to everything, back to this, you know, everyday interaction with humans. And now like, okay, how is that fair enough for you? You know, I can tell you from my experience, not very well. You know, like getting triggered to hell every day. And I'm like, oh, and there is again this, you know, like we had this Mercury in opposition with Neptune. And then, of course, Venus is going to have an opposition with Neptune, you know, at the end of her transit through Virgo. And yeah, it's like, where do we lie? Where are we lying to ourselves? You know, like playing victim, playing like, oh, you know, it's this person's fault, nothing to do with me. You know, it's all their stuff and stuff like that. Finger pointing, cancer culture. Oh my God, that is so popular right now, this cancer culture. Like, yeah, you cancelled. I don't like you, you know, all these kind of things. But again, who is the first one to throw the stone? It ain't gonna be me, I can tell you straight away. Ain't gonna be me, because for sure I have a lot of stuff to resolve, 100%, you know? And like all these people that are so gracefully showing it to me. Saying like, hey, you think you have this mastered? Okay, let me trigger you to see how mastered you are, you know, like, because this is the spirituality 2.0. The practical application, you know, where you get triggered and then universe say, okay, well, there is your opportunity to apply all your wisdom into practice, because otherwise it's just an information, right? So anyway, guys, you know, 43 minutes, I better wrap this up, but it's been intense. It's been intense. Obviously, as I did say last week in my little story about how my card got lost and removed from my, you know, from my phone case however way it happened, I had to I mean, I was going to anyway, but the decision, decision was definitely made for me in the direction of like, okay, now you have no choice. Before you thought I had a choice. No, you don't have choice. You have to stay here for 3 weeks. And it's like, again, what is this trying to teach me? And, like I said in my last video, my first was like, oh yeah, maybe it's a little bit easier with my parents. Let's just go back to Slovakia. It might be easier. And no, none of that is easy, but it's not meant to be, because nobody ever became resilient or confident or like strong when things were easy. I mean, seriously, like when you look at the history, or when you look at your life or anybody else's life, when people are too comfortable, they just get lazy and complacent and nothing changes. And, that's why there are challenging situations in human life, in human experience, because that's what opens us up. That's what creates this love and compassion, where, when there is the biggest struggles in the world, where there are natural disasters, wars and stuff, that's what really makes people compassionate. That's what opens them up, and people feel these things, because in each and every single one of us, there is a memory of that. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you're from. What is your religion? What is your color of skin? It doesn't matter. There was an incarnation when that was you. There was an incarnation when you had that experience, whether it was a war, whether it was a hurricane, an earthquake, or whatever it is. There was an incarnation when you were the one experiencing that, or something like that, or someone you love, or whatever. And that's why all of us have this response, right? When we watch that, that's why these people that are making television, main media, mainstream, they know that. They know that it's going to create this response. And that is the fastest way to manifestation, that we feel into that, right? So that's why would I want to, like open myself up to this kind of manipulation, which like we're giving power away without even knowing about it. So anyway, so this is going into completely different rabbit hole, but all I'm saying is that someone that you might be judging, that was you in past life, in one of them. So, because that's why we get triggered, because it's something that is unhealed within us, something that was suppressed or rejected. And that's why when that person is mirroring it back to us, then we don't like it, because we can't accept it in ourselves, or the fact that, oh, maybe there is an aspect of me that could behave this way, or whatever it is. So that's why when we all collectively and individually, myself included, okay, I'm not on my high spiritual high horse saying that I have it all figured out, guys, that's all your work, like absolutely not. Like, that's why I'm sharing these things, because I'm struggling, I'm like, this is in real time, real life. I'm actually experiencing these challenges in my personal reality almost on a daily basis. Literally, especially now, since I left Bulgaria, when I was in my little cocoon, not having to have to interact with anyone. It was all fantastic. I could just do what I want when I want. Ooh, it was great. And now I have to be integrated into society, like, hey, there is a world, there is a world out there. It's not all about you, And yeah, and there is all these things that are being brought to the surface, which was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that before, And now like universe is like, okay, now is the time to put in practice, all that knowledge. And yeah, and if you can't, then what else can you learn, right? Like the Virgo thing. What can you learn? Learn and adjust. And then we're going to integrate, and then we're going to try again. And then we might fail, we might not fail, who knows? But eventually we're going to master it, because that's how it goes, We try, we fail, and then we try again. And one day you master it, and then you can teach it to others. And that's life, because that's the hero's journey. That's how it goes. So yeah, so this is where we at. And like I said, this is not gonna get easier, okay? Like, I mean, this is not to scare people or be fear-mongering or anything. This is not going to get easier, because we need to resolve this, because Mars is going to get to the closing phase with North Node next year. Mars is going to get into the closing phase with Pluto, because it's now last quarter square tomorrow night. And this is closing of the cycles. And there is a new cycle then, after that. New cycle between Mars and Pluto. Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. Pluto is unconscious, is the soul's desire for incarnation and for, collective evolution. And North Node is our evolutionary potential. It's not going to stop. It's going forward. And after this is going to move into Pisces and then Aquarius in 2026, when we have all these huge changes and shifts going on. So it's not like time is running out. I mean, time is not linear, but we can all feel it. I mean, I don't know anyone who is not feeling this tension, you know, this stuff that is being stirred up, and like, and I mean, this could be just my experience, because obviously I'm, you know, I'm experiencing what I believe, so I believe this is happening, so that's what I'm experiencing. So your experience could be completely different, and I hope it is. I really hope it is, because if you already resolved all these things, that there is no need for you to re-experience that. Obviously I haven't, so I'm experiencing it here in real time. But yeah, eventually all this is going to change. But it doesn't mean the change is going to easy or fast, because we are creating a brand new paradigm. Brand new paradigm when it comes to relating to yourself and to the other. Because Aries is about you, Libra is about the other. So we are creating a brand new paradigm with regards to how we're going to co-live on this planet. And also relating to things like things that are not people as well, because if we can't even relate in a kind way to one another, then how are we gonna you know, relate in a kind way to something that is not even human? So anyway, you know, like, I'm just gonna leave it there. So anyway, guys, like I said, this is where I'm at. I'm staying in the UK for another week and a half, so there will be one more share from the British soil. And then it's back to Slovakia, and then next month it's back to Mexico. So then hopefully, you know, hopefully if I pass my exam, I'll have nice nice housemates over there, and then I'll be able to be more zen and neutral and less triggered and all that. So let's see how that's gonna work. But anyway, for now, it's, you know, it's seeing the gifts in every situation, because every situation has some gifts in it. Like, nothing is just bad, right? Nothing is just bad. There is always something that we can take from it, which is the caveat, you know, which is the gold. And yeah, and then when we remember that, we can apply it next time, and then we go like, okay, now I passed the exam, I don't have to have this experience again, I can have different one now. So yeah, so guys, have a good one. Have a nice weekend. Like I said, Moon is moving into the sign of Leo, so that will hopefully help me to create a good astrological forecast for you tomorrow in the same place in my friend's office, which I'm very grateful for, because I have a peace and quiet to make my videos, which is not possible at my friend's house with 3-month-old and 6.5-year-old. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of you with children understand what that means. It's not my experience, I don't have any, and there is a reason for that, but you know, it is what it is right now. And yeah, again, I'm responsible for meeting my needs, so I was very fortunate that you know, this turned up it fell on my lap, so there is an opportunity for me to be in a quiet space to create my videos, you know, 2 days a week. So that's fantastic. So anyway, guys, I'm really going now. I wish you all a beautiful weekend. Just ride the wave, observe, just, you know, just catch yourself and try to ask, what can I learn from this, and how can I change my approach towards this situation and this person, so I don't have to relive it again. And yeah, and I'll speak to you tomorrow with regards to the astrological forecast. Much love, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye.